Promise. Yep, this is Promised Land Bench on May 24th, 2021. I'm heading, take us to Facebook Live while Jane explains what she's seeing as a beginning mandate here. Go ahead, Jane.
Yeah, I kind of wanted it to be on the Facebook Live, but probably doesn't matter. Yeah, what we're trying to do is really, rather than go into framing up things that becomes very religious and protocol, is move into direct encounter to open up the flood of heaven for us. And glory's been really, the glory being and also the concept of glory has been really highlighted to me in the last couple of weeks. And I've been really engaging the glory. And I just felt today it would bring immense flow. So if you want to begin to open your gates and invite the glory being to envelop us. And we just ask the heaven to release its fullest glory. We just through us as everlasting gates. Just open yourself as a gate now. It's very important to release it at the edge of heaven and earth and not just be in heaven. So well, we can do it from the edge is this house, but we can also do it from our own east gate and release that glory now. And there are two places I've seen for glory that I've just had the most immense encounters in the last few weeks. Probably some of my highest frequency encounters, which is why I'm asking, what is the highest frequency and is it really love? Because there are many other gospels beyond the greatest commandment that Yeshua talked about that we've seen are being released now. And imagine the glory is just the manifest presence of God. It's many, many things, but it's kind of one way of summarizing it. But there's two elements I've seen. One is right at the beginning in the what was, the eternity, where we are spirit beings, but we don't have a body. It's before the creation of the world. And there's just light beings there. So there's lots of sons who've never been birthed into a body on the earth, but who are our family. And so we can say we're light beings in that sense. And the glory around that is just profound because it's a place of no corruption. And we've even seen recently, it's a place of holy habitation where we can be without, to stop the world corrupting us. So you could feel your engagement with the living, the light beings, the spirit beings, the spirit sons, they're your brothers and sisters. And they're part of the immense family that's here to help us understand the biggest blueprint. So you can even dance with them, or I see it like sparkling on a lake or the sea, where the sun comes down, the sunset, and the sun catches the sea, and because of the waves you get this immense sparkling. It's just the most beautiful scene I see in the world. And when I see that, I see all these light sun beings that I can engage with. So you may want to engage, you may want to dance with them, but feel that they manifest God's glory because they are in the total presence of God without veils. just experience that beautiful, beautiful environment. Draw on that glory. Do share if you see anything in that environment.
I sense to greet the light beings. I mean, I just sense that they're like you said, brothers, family, and that there was a need to begin relationship, and I just do that by shaking hands.
Well, remember, they don't have a body, so.
Well, they've got a spirit body, I would think, wouldn't they? Maybe not. But anyway,
Because all
greeting.
I'm thinking is we want to engage them in the way they operate.
Okay.
So they operate through light. So what would light do?
Well, I'm seeing this flowy substance like a Milky Way, but it's very light and airy, so you can see through it. And it seems to be flowing from it's flowing through this atmosphere, or not this atmosphere, but the one that I saw. And it looks like it feels like a water, like dew, like a very fine mist of something.
Awesome. Awesome.
When you asked how would we engage them, two thoughts came. One was frequency of light, like pulsing light, in other words. And the other one is we can communicate just spirit to spirit.
Yes, cardiogenosis. Yeah,
Yeah,
oh, go on.
I forgot the original thing I wanted to say, but to me, it's like the question, how would we be, and like what would light do to us? But then these being light beings, right? Then their light will reflect into us, and so we will become as they are, and so we can, when we take on that form, the same form of them, we can touch them, and we can embrace them, because the light that they are, we become the same image as they are.
That's awesome. That's so beautiful. Actually, I think that summarizes my encounter with them. Because what I saw was, it was like they all rushed to me like a magnet. And then they sort of enveloped me. And then they merged with me. And so I became a brighter light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like cells, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the opposite, not dividing, sort of moving in and then adding. And Bill, I was just thinking, you are right that they can morph. So they do have a spirit body. I'd not seen that before. So they could morph into a body. Not that I've ever seen them do that, but there's no reason, because God can morph into a body.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just hadn't dawned on me.
So there is an image. Even in light, there is an image. There is a presentation.
And really, you could probably even ask them to be anything you want them to be, anything that makes you feel comfortable. But I still just like the light, because to me there's so much to learn from that. Because we want to go to an encounter that pushes us beyond our normal boundaries and comfort zones. And I love to see how they engage as light. And it's just like that water image. I just see them like they're dancing on the water, and they're flickering, you know, all over the place, in and out. And it's so beautiful. And to me, it's just, it may not be the glory, but I don't know, it feels like the glory to me.
Jane, my sense is that we're light, they're light, but their frequency is higher than ours. So that raises our frequency. That's what you said as your being your encounter. And I see the goal as being coming to the place of becoming perfect light. So that's highest frequency light, perfect light, just like there's perfect love and there's perfect this and perfect that. The goal is to come to perfect light, which is mature, complete light, have our frequency raised up to the highest level of light frequency.
So would that be multiple frequencies?
Oh,
Multiple frequencies.
oh, you mean like, at different levels?
Yes.
Oh, wow, that's an interesting concept, isn't it? And how interesting is that we may need all the frequencies, not just the highest, because that's what we've seen. Just jumping to the highest age is not the solution. So yeah, they must encompass all different frequencies.
Yeah.
To bring
Combination
different aspects.
of frequencies would be harmony.
Oh yeah.
If you're resonating with each frequency, in other words, you've come to the highest, you've come to that frequency, you've raised up your frequency to become that high frequency for each of those separate frequencies, but each frequency has a different frequency, and all those frequencies together make harmony.
So if I encounter beings in this realm, they will see the frequencies I have, which if they are more, have been around more or understand more, they would know what I need.
Yeah.
And may be willing, because of who they are, to share that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I would do what you say, come follow me. Take you on a journey.
Yeah. And I think it's a chance as well. You might want to just do it now, of having the most ecstatic experience. However you feel you want to express the highest emotion or the thing that will bring the greatest joy to you, to just do that with them. And that's what I did before, and I had the best time. I was actually physically at a beach with the sunset and the water glistening, and I was on this pier, and it was the most beautiful setting, and I just let myself go, and I had put music on, and I was dancing with them, and it was just the most beautiful. It was the most ecstatic thing I've done, really. So just release yourself now to allow that emotion to come upon you. And what would you do? If you could do anything, you can move in any direction. You're not constrained by a body, by gravity. What would you want to do? You may even, I just sense like to go and like go up to 1, and like try to get the release of the blueprint from them through cardiogenosis, because they long for us to know the highest blueprint. So I just felt led as well to share the other end of the spectrum, which is the glory in perfection. And Revelation 21 describes the sky will be the glory of God. There'll be no sun like we know it. It will just be the immense glory of God. And can you imagine being in perfection? You're in the garden. It's the most beautiful scene. And the sky is pulsating with the glory of God. You never, ever feel any pain, any loneliness. You're surrounded by family. You never, ever feel the separation with God. You just have to look up at the sky and it's just this pulsating mass. Can you see anything in that glory? Can you feel anything? Can you allow that glory to squash out any memory of trauma?
I'm seeing that glory heals.
Yeah, just share if you're getting any form of encounter. I've just realized the glory as well is not just in the sky, it's everywhere. So it's like in the atmosphere, in the air we breathe. We're like breathing in glory all the time. It's our supply source, it's our oxygen, you might say.
Yeah, I think that the glory actually overshadows the sun. So like the sun might still exist, but the brightness of the glory would be even brighter than the brightness of the sun.
I'm sensing that it fills our entire being, like you said, Jane, like breathing it in. So it's just like oxygen being spread around by your body. It just fills your entire spirit, soul, and body. You breathe it, you swallow it, you comes out of our pores after we breathe it in and swallow it.
Oh, I've just gone and looked at the oh, by the way, that, yes, going out and in and out the pores. Oh wow, that's really awesome. And like we infuse out glory then, which is what we do really. We have we're always manifesting glory, aren't we? It's a shroud, even though we don't feel it, it is there. And I've just looked at the scriptures and realized it actually says the city has no need of sun or moon, for the glory of God illuminates the city, but it's this bit I'd never seen before. And the lamb is its light.
Mhm.
Wow, the lamb is the light.
Amen.
Isn't that interesting how it's lamb and not the father?
Lamb has to do with salvation, Jane. It's priestly function. Sacrifice as well as priest and so on.
But it's another way in which the lamb is elevated, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all was given unto the Lamb through his success. So Father just totally promotes the Lamb. So all glory and everything can be in him as given by the Father. At the same time, if it's in the Lamb, then it's in the Father, because they're both one. Right? When we put it all together, it's Father, Son, Holy Ghost, right? So whatever resonates from the Lamb resonates from the Father, but it's just the Father has placed it in the Lamb, right? And he has placed us in the Lamb. So whatever resonates from the Lamb is going to resonate from us in that time line.
I'm seeing the Lamb as a source of revelation of salvation as well. Like
Yes.
sunlight coming out of the sun.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interim, isn't it? I mean, in the final, it won't have that function, but now there's an interim version of perfection that has that role. And that's why it's so important we go on the journey to be the lamb, not just the king or the...
Bonnie posted on the chat, and Bonnie, you talked about, you see that the revelation of good and evil is two, but before that it was just the one. I do see that. Actually, what happens is when you trade out of evil, you only have good left. Does resonate. Lamb in Gematria is hell, and lower one is Cain. I'll see if I can add the screenshot. Don't follow that, only because it's brand new.
Say that again, don't follow which bit?
Bonnie posted about Gematria, which means the meaning of the numbers of a name. Screenshot that she posted there. Doesn't come up for me, so.
That made me think, and you said numbers for name, LAMB 1 2 3 4 door. It's that bright and magnificent door that we enter into and become just as he is in the form of glory and light. Right.
But that revelation that the Lamb is the source of glory, Jane, that's really something. Source of glory in the New Jerusalem, in perfection.
Yeah, and how do you see the lamb? Like, does anybody see what the lamb? Does it look like a lamb? Does it look like Christ? Does it look like a man?
It looks
Or a
like
lamb?
Christ, magnificent and full of light and glory. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, you can see it as a lamb, but then who is the lamb? It's Christ, and it's like magnificent, full of light, full of glory. And when we merge with him, we become the reflection of who he is, full of light and full of glory. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing, Doreen, full of light, and you can just receive in that light and get revelation. You also receive that in that light and glory from the Lamb, you receive it in, and you end up becoming light and glory. I mean, it raises your frequency of light and glory.
Mhm.
So Doreen, you're just seeing like glowing light, are you? No image of a man.
No, no, I see the image of Yeshua, but then it overshadows him. So if you see the image of, well, if you want to focus on them, you can see the lamb, but the lamb will transfer into Yeshua. So the image of him is the outline of who he is, but the light and everything covers his face. The glory covers him. It covers his face because he is light and he's full of light. That's who he is. And so we can be that same reflection when we carry his glory. I can definitely see a man, but the light overshadows the man. So you won't see his face.
Yeah, this is what I see in the tent of meeting. I see Yeshua's outline, but it's so bright light. It's virtually, you know, it's a man, but it's virtually indistinguishable. And then I also tried the encounter of Moses hiding in the rock, and God's glory went by, and he had to put the hand over the rock. And I don't know if it's wise to actually ask to go in the light there.
Yeah, I had thought of Moses earlier. When he came down from the hill, he was reflecting the glory of God in his face, and no one wanted to look upon him because the brightness was too great.
Do you sense it's all right to go into that? Because what worries me is Jacob had a problem, didn't he, with after encountering God's glory.
If you're seeing something, please go ahead and just share. Even if this is your first time here in the Spanish, it's not a problem. Please share what you're seeing. This can be a great benefit to all of us.
When I came into this place, I could feel the difference of frequency, and I almost felt like I was dirty. Like they're so pure. I felt like there was this difference. And yet at the same time, I felt this incredible love that they had for me. And I couldn't, it is light. I did see it like in a form of like a body form, like a human. But you know, it's so bright I can't make out, you know, facial features or anything like that. And one of them came to me, and I guess he realized that I have got a cold. And so he placed his hands on my sinuses, and I felt like his hands went through my face into the sinus cavities, you know, all the different ones that you can't even get to. It was weird. It was, oh my gosh.
Thank you so much, Karen, for having the courage to share what you saw. That's tremendous. Thank you so much. Wonderful.
I actually have
Anybody?
the voice slightly to actually speak up, so.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. I know that takes some courage. And all of us, when somebody else shares something that they see, it's like an invitation to all the rest of us to go and see and experience exactly the same thing that the other person is seeing, experiencing. So if there's elements of Karen's testimony that you say, I want that, I want to experience that, and I want to receive that, go enter into what she shared and experience the same. It's an open door for all of us to go through into the same encounter, the same experience.
So Bill, do you get any sense of, is there some things we shouldn't go into? You know, why did Jacob have a problem when he engaged
Jacob,
God?
well, Jacob was wrestling with the angel of the Lord, and he wrestled all night. He wouldn't let go. And what he said was, I won't let go until you bless me. And the angel of the Lord was not able to overcome Jacob. So the scripture says about Jacob that he prevailed with God and men, because he also prevailed with his brother and others too. But the point was, at the end of that encounter with the angel of the Lord, the angel of the Lord touched Jacob's hip socket. He touched the sinew, which is what at the end of a muscle where it connects to the bone. And Jacob limped after that. I'm not exactly certain why all that happened, but my sense is that it wasn't a bad thing, or it wouldn't have been done,
Seems very bad. A limp.
Yeah, it
It's not
does.
good, is it?
But it was the result of wrestling with God for the whole night and winning. So
Yeah.
it
So
can't
then,
be.
yeah, so he will have that as a, I don't know if it ever went away, but that would be a testimony that whereby he took his rightful position, but he had to want it and he had to fight for it because he was ordained in his purpose to be Israel who he became. But remember, he went through it by like not a good means as far as deceiving his father, right? But he fought back for that purpose. So because one of the other apostles had a thorn in the flesh as well. So if this was a thorn in his flesh, at least, to him, it would be like the confirmation always that he's walking in his rightful place.
Yeah, and I'm arguing with you, Doreen. I think it may have been, Jane, that it was, I mean, that limp is in his flesh, right? But not spirit or soul. It may have been a permanent humbling thing to go along with the experience that he had that taught a person too.
Oh, yeah, like Paul. Done
Yes.
the same thing to keep him humble, didn't he?
Yeah, remember we're encountering the pillars of gratitude and humility these days, which, by the way, had a major breakthrough with reference to gratitude since you encouraged us to engage gratitude last week in this bench. So thank you. But anyway, yeah.
Also, Jacob had lost everything. Absolutely everything. He basically had, it's either going to do it or he's not going to do it.
Oh, you mean he'd lost everything before this experience, so that's why he was wrestling to bless me.
Yes.
Ah.
Yes. He was on his way to meet the woman who was going to be his bride. and he lost his dowry. He lost everything. He got waylaid. They robbed him.
Also occurs to me, Jane, that Jacob is the forerunner of overcoming, right? Because he's the first one to overcome. Maybe I can't say that, but he's the one that actually overcame to the point that his name was changed from Jacob to Israel, which brings the fulfillment of the promise that Abraham would become a great nation, because Israel is the great nation. So he had a really key place in forerunning history as an overcomer. I wouldn't be surprised that part of his experience was because he was the first one.
Wasn't Abraham the first one? Because his name was Abram and then changed to Abraham.
Okay, yeah. So you're right that a new name is a frequently accompanies overcoming. Or actually, you can flip it around the other way, that the new names would actually helps us to overcome, enables us to overcome. But you're right, he wasn't the only one that overcame, but he was the one that overcame to become Israel.
Yeah, because he was ordained from his mother's womb to become Israel. So right there, when he wrestled all night, that was him stepping into his purpose and into his destiny, whether he knew it or not. He was ordained. It said that the elder shall serve the younger. He came out second. He was purposed to do what he had to do, but he had to grow to the extent that he stepped into it. And I'm wrestling all night and saying, I'm not letting go until you give me what is rightfully mine.
Yeah.
Then I believe that's what happened.
Yeah, and Thomas, you can double check me on this, but I think Jacob got the birthright from Esau, but then he got the blessing from God by wrestling with the Lord, the angel of the Lord, and the two together is, I mean, the thing is to have both the birthright and the blessing. Right? I have that correct, Thomas?
Well, the birthright and the mandate for fruitfulness.
Blessing does result in fruitfulness. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, looking down the generations, and Jacob, the city of Jacob is the city of generations. That's also something I've seen. Go ahead, Thomas.
I see the result when his name was changed. His name was changed to establish who is part of the name. I think because a nation is called Israel is kind of confusing, because he was made Israel because of what Israel, the name, the word, means. So anybody who wrestles with God and doesn't quit will be renamed. Somewhere in his name will be the name Israel, because that's what the word means.
So what does the name Israel mean then, again?
The one that wrestles with God and doesn't quit.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
So
So, I mean, is this a call to all of us then? Should we all wrestle with God?
Amen. We're doing it right now.
But what does it mean to wrestle with God?
It means when the angel that Jacob wrestled with,
Right.
in Jewish Hebrew understanding, was an emanation from God. We call him an angel because he's a supernatural being. He's not really an angel in the sense that Michael is an angel or Gabriel is an angel. He is Peniel, known as the presence or the face of God. So one move by Jacob and Peniel could have destroyed him in a split second. But it was a test for Jacob, because Jacob had done things in an underhanded, sneaky manner and tried to steal what was already
Yes.
going to be his. So now he had to make right what he did wrong.
Right.
Very
So-
interesting that presence, Peniel and presence brings us back to Jane's sense of mandate for today, which was seeking the glory and manifest presence. It came right around the mandate here.
So does it mean to wrestle with God that we continuously fight through, we continuously press on in this journey, you know what I mean, until we come into the fulfillment like of who we are in him? Because like if everybody becomes Israel and Israel becomes the one chosen nation, whether it's spiritual or natural, then if we have to wrestle, then that will mean that we never give up. We continue on this journey, we continue overcoming, and that would be how I see as to wrestle in order to step in, to remain in who we are.
Yeah, there will be a point where we've done enough wrestling. We have the name. The name is now part of our identity. Now, in our humanity, I would not try to set a date or pick the date when Israel became part of my name. I would just say that one day I had an experience and I know that I overcame. And the other aspect of that is I had I'm not talking about me personally, but there was a John 15:15 experience where Jesus said, I'm telling you these things. I'm telling you these secrets. I'm telling you the master plan because you're friends of Father. Father has told me I can tell you because you're his friend. You're no longer servants. Servants don't know what's going on. Friends do.
Yeah. Do you know, I'm sensing this is the mandate to wrestle with God for the full blessing for the manifest sons. For the
Amen
not
to that.
necessarily the whole world, but the how do I say this? The ones seeking the fullest journey get the blessing to get that inheritance. Because if you're not seeking it and you're not choosing it, we can't demand it for people who are not choosing it.
Right.
But there are those that are choosing it but are struggling to see the full inheritance. And there's something else was coming to me for as a mandate today, was around the Grape Harvest. It's always, I always sensed before, ages ago, when you first found out about the Grape Harvest, that it would come back up again. And there would be a time of pressing of the grapes, which we're seeing is just anyone really who's not choosing the highest way. Well, no, I wouldn't say it's the 30-fold. I'd just say it's anyone below the 30-fold who's, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but that kind of the sort of unbeliever type. But what was interesting was I was listening to a recording yesterday of some intel on the highest military action that's happening in the world, and they were saying that it's like the pressing of grapes in the wine press. The people are being pressed, and I even heard another source say it's like the people are being sieved. And so there's a separation going on of some sort. And I don't even know what the mandate is, whether you govern against that or you. I actually have no idea, but it just came to me as this is what's happening in our time frame.
Well, I don't know if this is appropriate, but what about the sheep and the goat? Doesn't a sifting have to happen in order to separate the two? And so then we get sheep nations and goat nations. The sheep hears voice, the goats don't. I'm just saying because you mentioned a sifting. So what gets sifted? When you sift things, it's because you want to let something out and keep something in, right? So that's why it just came to my mind that we maybe want to be able to determine the sheep from the goats.
Feel like it's level after level after level, and every level the Lord is basically saying, are you going to push on to the next one? Are you going to go further? Are you going to go all the way? And at the end of this process is that manifest Son of God is the prize that we're I know that's not probably maybe the end of the process. And it reminds me of a sifter that I remember seeing at some point. Think of it like a flour sifter. You put flour into the one end of it and it's got chunks, and it then comes out the other end in small pieces. The sifter had a big grid, the biggest grid on the top, then below that had another grid that had a smaller grid, and then down below another smaller grid, smaller and smaller grid down. And finally, the really, really fine stuff came out the other end, but everything else got caught at one level or another. But think of the last level as being the highest level that you're going towards. You get sifted and you get sifted and you get sifted and you get sifted and you get sifted. And if you say yes to all the sifting, then you finally end up at Son of God, manifest Son of God, which is what we're have as a goal.
But would it be that the thing that comes out when you sift it, that's the purified stuff, and the hardened stuff is what's being pruned away.
Yeah, everything that's lower blueprint is pruned away. Yep. And every time you come to one of those places, there's always going to be a new set of trades that are presented to you that you need to trade out of something that's old in order to be able to trade into the something that's new. And you have to let go of the older, even when it's good, to get to the place of the next level of new. It's probably not present that quite exactly right, but you understand what I'm saying. I'm finding that I'm always finding something else to trade out of. That I didn't even know was an issue. I'm not talking about sin. I've dealt with that as far as I know, but other things.
Yeah, so you could argue this journey is never one of just one degree of bliss to another. There's always something you have to give up that you may have liked.
Yeah. Are you willing to make a sacrifice of something that you have valued that is not the highest blueprint?
So I'm wrestling now with how we tie these two things together, and
Well, define.
I think whether we like it or not, the sifting is already happening. So we don't have to govern over a sifting.
Yeah,
it's happening, and some people are even saying now it's already finished. If you haven't heard the frequency of what's going on now, you never will. And there is an element I kind of I see it's half right. There are just some people now, they will just never see what's going on, and they will just trigger so badly, they'll shut every form of communication down. So I don't even see it rescuing those people. I don't even see it's rescuing the Grape Harvest. I don't see that as the blueprint from scripture. But I do see this wrestling for the manifest sons of.
Why can't you go back in time?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good question.
I mean, because
Yeah.
if Father's in time and time's forward and backwards, why can't we just go back in time and witness to people? You know, why does it have to always be that they're all lost? Because he said that he didn't want any of them to be lost. They're all his children. I mean, any mother who gives birth to anyone, any child, wants that child the best that they can be. And if you're a Christian mother, you want all of them saved. You're not satisfied if one is not saved. And you will
Yeah, very
do
true.
whatever it takes. And so, I mean, and if you're truly following in the heartbeat of God, why would you want any of your siblings not to know God? Why would you want any of them not to experience any of this? I mean, this is amazing.
It's very, very
I
good.
don't have answers. I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah, very, very good questions. And I see two elements to this that I've recently come into a deeper understanding of timelines on. One is that a lot of the prophecies in the book of Revelation are possible timelines, some that are a huge chance of it happening unless the sons change it. And this is why, we are going down a lot of the tracks that are already been there, because not many have stood up and said, I want it differently. But equally, we don't have to accept these timelines as inevitable. And, it's for us to decide, do we want to fight for it or not, I suppose. I mean, really, until the end, until all this crumbles, and there's probably always a case for fighting if you sense a mandate. Maybe the wrestling is we do both together, the Grape Harvest and for the manifest sons.
Yeah.
And we refuse, and we I know what we do. We command the blessing, don't we? As the highest one, Bill. What's that? Command the blessing.
High priest, according to the order of Melchizedek, we command the blessing. Yeah.
Yeah, we command the blessing now, because I feel that this bench has got to this level of this high priest that we can legitimately command that blessing now. I don't see that you can just storm in, if you've never done any priestly actions, and just, I think it's a journey, but I think this is the same thing. I think I have a feeling, I had a sense in myself as well, I was to command the blessing now.
Good.
But
Personally.
I'm sorry. No, because when you say the blessing, then I see it as life, because the blessing is life forevermore, right? And so, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. And so then it says that Yeshua would have, he said he would have that none perish, right? And then if the blessing is life forevermore, then I'm seeing that that's his side of his heart. If you don't want your son to perish, then a way will be provided that they won't perish. I'm just thinking it in the sum of it all, things that we may not be able to see far into the future. if it's gonna break your heart for your son to perish, and it is so hard, but wouldn't it be a possibility that you would do all in your power to see that he doesn't? So what I'm saying is maybe ultimately none will conclusively perish. I'm sorry. I know, okay, it's crazy, but hey.
Doreen, I've seen the scripture says that God does not desire. And so I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with having exactly the same desire he has, that none should perish. And I think that's the place to begin, is to have that desire to become one with him in that desire. Certainly getting to a place where none perish is only going to happen if we come to the place of desiring that happen, you know. I still have a question about everybody has their own choices they make. But then I also sense that as we move into higher and higher frequencies and higher blueprints, it's going to get harder and harder for people to make the wrong choice, because it's going to get easier and easier to make the right choice as we do that. That's something else that I sense. Jane, you were heading us to, you're seeing the two mandates working out at the same time. Can you define those two again?
Yeah, I sense we don't wrestle with God as Jacob, because I'm still not sure about all that. But we just command the blessing as the high priest in the Holy of Holies for the manifest sons, full inheritance, and that none should perish in the
That's
great
good.
harvest.
Because life forevermore is going to mean that it's going to mean two levels of life. I'm just saying that as you're talking, Jane. The one level of life is those of us that have done the journey, our bodies don't die. That's the one level of life, because that's the first level of death, right? Is the death of the body. And the second death is the lake of fire. So life forevermore is both those levels of life. That the body doesn't die, so you live forever without dying. And that for the person that hasn't taken the journey to get to that place, at the very least, it would be that they don't face condemnation / lake of fire. Again, I think people make their choices, but still, that's the two aspects of commanding the blessing. And just to clarify, we command the blessing as the high priest, according to the order of Melchizedek, in the Holy of Holies in the heavenly temple. When you've gotten to the place where you're able to function as high priest in the heavenly temple, there are no veils there, so you're not kept into one section or another. And as Jane said, you do need to do a journey to get to the place of functioning as high priest. So you may or may not be able to do this at the moment, but you certainly can watch and see as it's happening. And you could also, if you can't do it real time, you can go ahead on the timeline into the future, to the place where you can do it and participate in that place and time. I think that would be fair to say, wouldn't it be, Jane?
Yes, and you can join in as part of a bench encounter. You don't have to have personally got to a certain level.
Yeah. It's just like in the old Kingdom Age wineskin, when the prophet was in the meeting, everybody prophesied whether they were able to do so on their own or not. Same thing, when you're on a bench with folks that are functioning at this level, you're able to function at that level as part of the bench, even though you can't function at that level on your own, is what Jane's saying. I'm just putting different
So
words.
here's a question. I feel this question from time to time. When we talk about life, And when we talk about, let's see, the body, my question is, flesh and blood do not inherit heaven. So when we talk about life and when we talk about not dying, what are we talking about? What body are we talking about?
A really good question, Thomas. My answer as of this week is that we're talking about the natural body changing from the old natural body, which can die, to the new natural body that can't die.
Mm.
Is what
I-
we're talking about.
Yeah,
So
I
you're
think
saying that a new natural body, is it still flesh and blood, or is it something else?
Oh, I see your point about flesh and blood. Yeah, the scripture specifically says that you can't inherit the kingdom of God. Flesh and blood can't inherit the kingdom of God. That's from 1 Corinthians 15, which means that your body doesn't inherit the kingdom of God at the very least until after resurrection or change. But my sense is that you can inherit with your soul before actually having a resurrection or change of your body. Because I see in the scripture says, awake, O sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. And that's like waking up from sleep. That's not after a journey. That's waking up to start the journey. And that's waking up to start the soul journey. So we actually have a resurrection at the beginning of our soul journey, is what I'm seeing from that verse. And Christ shining upon you is kingship. And kingship's the first level of the age of Melchizedek. So there's a resurrection of the soul, but there's a later resurrection of the body, which can happen after death, or you can experience what we call the change of the body without dying. And that now, to answer your question about flesh and blood, I've thought about this a little bit. I think that after Yeshua died, I think his body was emptied of blood. I don't think he had blood when he was resurrected. They were still touching the holes, where he leaked blood, right?
Right.
Can I ask something? Maybe.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to think about the issue of the flesh and blood, but I'm kind of looking at it from the perspective of, because currently we draw our life from the flesh and blood, but you can get to a place where, yes, you may have flesh and blood, but you draw your life from the revelation that maybe you have engaged. And I don't know if that makes sense. You may have the flesh and blood. There are many who literally draw their life from flesh and blood. But there are others who can engage the word and literally they live out of the revelations and not flesh and blood. So they may still have flesh and blood, but not live out of it. So that is some revelation that is coming. Thank you.
John speaks in John 5 about the Father having life within himself, and he gives the Son to have life within himself. So there's a point at which our life is no longer in the blood of the body. There's a point at which we actually have life inside us. I picture receiving life into our innermost, and that is associated with the ability to raise the dead, having life within you. So anyway, there is a life of the body. And well, anyway, I think we've done enough on that. Jane, where were we?
Well, I think the blood is congealed light, so the new body will just be like light flowing through the veins. So yeah, it kind of won't bleed, I think it will just, and that's why it can morph and change and do all sorts, because it will just be this full light properties. So it'll probably look sort of similar, but the constitution might be very different. I don't think we'll have organs, and we won't have to consume food and anything like that. but we'll just probably have a form that looks sort of similar.
I was thinking that listen to what Bill said about the life actually from God actually being well, let me say impregnated in us, because that's the first thing that comes to mind. But also that Christ not having that need for blood because his blood was poured out. So if his
Yeah.
blood was poured out, well then his new existence doesn't need to have that blood. It has the direct impregnation from the Father in his system, which is spirit, right? And so it says that so I know it says that flesh and blood will not enter, but I look at the body as although it may appear to be the same, right? The body takes on a spiritual resurrection and a spiritual newness, right? Even as we exist today. So the newness of our bodies, it changes in the spirit realm, right? So I'm saying, like, even if we do still bleed, it's a process just like everything else. When we begin the journey, we crawl and then we walk. When we begin the journey of resurrected bodies, yeah, we're gonna bleed, but when we come into the fullness of that journey we want. So I don't know if that makes any type of sense,
Yeah.
but even
Yeah.
the resurrected body is a process.
Yeah, I agree. I think there probably will be this gradual journey like that. And I think that the reason why it's important to engage light and the age of light and know how to function in many forms of light is because of this destiny of us being light instead of blood. So to not resist that, even though it feels a bit freaky, I find that the more I've really engaged the age of light, I've got so many different encounters for quite a few years now. And to be honest, it's once you get into it, it is so magnetic. It's like there's nothing more you want to do than be light. It's just unbelievably glorious. It makes everything else feel religious. And it's so glorious. And I had this experience, I went to this light exhibition, and it was like, it's my picture. That's the picture of it there. I've put on the Zoom. And I was in these like shafts of light and just spun round in these, they were like plastic tubes flashing light. And I had the most highest intensive ecstasy experience I've ever had. It was so glorious. I was just surrounded by light, and I was light, and it was just flashing everywhere, and it was just amazing. Anyway, back to the mandate. So shall we just be the high priest in the Holy of Holies, and do we just say we command the blessing? I mean, does anybody see we do anything else?
I just put it on the chat. I command the blessing, which is life forevermore, is what I would suggest we say. And again, reminding us we're in the Holy of Holies, in the heavenly temple, functioning as high priest.
Yeah, so I just feel to say as well with that, we're not just saying about immortality. Life is everything.
Yep.
And it's all the fullest inheritance and the promises. So we just command the blessing of the fullest inheritance, and particularly for anything where the manifest sons are just struggling. It's all too much. That they just need certain things to flow, to cope. We just command that blessing now that they would be able to make that next step, and there would be some sense of flow in their lives and some sense of immense joy of a blessing right now, not 1 hour in the future, not 2 weeks in the future, right now. We squeeze the time frame, the timelines, we squeeze the what was to the is to come into the now, to bring the shortest distance for this blessing to come. It would be such an inspiration.
I join you in that, Jane.
I'll give a big amen to that.
Mhm.
Felt like coming alongside of you and just flowing with you as you were saying that. Like two trains on two tracks, but right next to each other, traveling the same direction, same speed. That's how it felt as you were saying that.
Oh yeah, so I just command the blessing as well for the Grape Harvest. That they would see the big picture of what's going on, and that none would perish, that each would come into the light. I just sense to be light now. Flash that light like a lighthouse. It's just so that they're drawn to the light. They just see it for the first time. They see that lighthouse. They see the big rock that they could crash into. And the lighthouse is there saying, keep away from that. See the light. See the light. Put away your triggers, I say unto you. Put away your triggers. Open your heart to alternative ways of thinking. Your God is crying out to save you. Hear your God. Bow down to your God. Accept your ability to only see a fraction. Crucify your self-ego, crucify your self-government. Your God desires mercy and goodness. He longs to bless you. Receive that blessing.
I just keep hearing, in the midst of darkness, there came a great light.
And you know the
Sons of God to manifest.
Yeah, and you know the wine press picture. I just see like us unscrewing the wine press so it's not so condensed. You know, we do the opposite motion. It's like an anti-Fibonacci spiral thing as well. We just take that pressure off. Because remember, we're being pressured as well, you know? All sorts of ways for us to compromise. So just take that pressure off, like unscrew the wine press. Oh, and I want to share something else. It's so linked to this thing. I've been doing this like crumbling act for a few weeks now, and it's like crumbling breadcrumbs. And I'm crumbling all sorts of agendas going on. And I couldn't work out what I was doing in a heavenly sense. And then I got revelation that I was the start of the Fibonacci spiral. So I was no longer a Fibonacci spiral releasing this act. I was the source of the supply of the Fibonacci spiral, which was so profound to me. I was like, wow, I am really now operating as the source of supply, as the Aleph at the start of, at the beginning.
Wow, Jane.
Yeah. And I think that's real headship, you know? It's when you initiate something, you don't just join in with a blueprint that heaven's doing. You're the one standing up saying, hey, this is the blueprint right now. I want this to be the blueprint right now. just as many big characters did, you know. They told God, no, we don't want this, God. We don't want this. We want it this way. And God said, okay, because you've stood up and you've asked.
Creators, right?
Yeah, creators, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we could just declare now that we don't, a lot of these things will crumble right now. They need to crumble right now. They cannot be going this level now. They need to crumble.
Good.
I've just found out a new one, actually. I won't say it here, but I crumble this new agenda that's being played out. I start the motion of the Fibonacci in the heavens and on the earth.
Can I show you something on the screen?
Please.
Do you see this diagram?
Yeah, we can see it, Thomas. Sun and the planets, right?
It's the sun, and these are the planets going around the sun, and the sun is in motion. Okay. The sun, we are a traveling Fibonacci.
Wow.
Here's another way to look at it. Moving around the galaxy and moving through the universe.
Wow.
Can you see that?
Yeah, that's so good.
Yes.
Isn't that awesome?
Wow. Fully trans-dimensional galactic beings.
Yes.
That's that glory.
Hallelujah.
No sun in New Jerusalem, but being the glory would be actually still be the center of the solar system kind of thing.
Yeah, and now this is going around the edge of our galaxy, and our galaxy is doing the same thing, going through the universe.
It's all spirals, isn't it?
Yes. And this
So
here,
we're the center of the universe, and the universe rotates around us.
well, here's another way to look at it here. Remember the sine wave. Here's the sine wave. We're on the edge of the galactic plane of the Milky Way. This is our sun in the middle, and the Earth is one of the planets that goes around here. So we're going around here, and we're going that way.
Oh, so what you're saying is the Earth is always going in like a Fibonacci spiral.
Yes. The whole
Oh,
solar
wow.
system. The whole solar system is.
Oh, wow.
Here's another way to look at it. See, we're going through space. That's
Oh,
our
so
sun.
are we constantly moving our position in space then?
Constantly.
Oh, wow. Wow, because that's the new definition of time.
Yeah.
That I'm getting now is that time is location. So the passing of time is the fact you keep moving location.
Yes, so time is motion, motion is in space. So time and space is this Fibonacci in motion, moving as our solar, around our sun, in our solar system, moving around our galaxy all at the same time. And our galaxy is moving in space. I guess we would call that the universe.
So it's looking more and more likely that we can't say that time is eradicated. We just
Jane, I-
see it differently and maybe not conscious of the.
I had an encounter this last week talking with someone. The two of us were encountering in respect to time, and I saw time raise a white flag, so it surrendered. I see there's being old time and new time. It's not that there's no time, it's just that there's old time and new time. So old time is like our enemy. You know, your biological clock runs out and you die, or your biological clock runs out and you can't have babies anymore, or whatever. Time is an enemy in a certain sense in the old way. But I saw that as we overcome time, overcome the old time, then time actually is our friend. It's only our friend. It's not a mixed bag.
Apparently, as long as we're in motion, there is time.
Yeah.
It appears.
Speed is distance within time, right? Distance over time. Speed
Yeah.
is distance over time.
Yeah. So this is our galaxy. And we're moving in this direction. And the galaxy itself is moving in the universe as well. So we're always in motion.
Yeah.
So, Bill, from what you said, so would you say
All
that
right.
there is a true time and a counterfeit time, and the majority of the world operates from within the counterfeit time, but when we break through that barrier, then we discover a new form of time?
When we break through that barrier, we discover that time is our friend. It's on our side.
Mhm.
We saw that there's actually like a throne with respect to time, and there's a scepter with respect to time, and you actually rule over time as a king, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, or the phrase "Time Lord" came to mind. I know it sounds like science fiction, but
Mhm.
so anyway, yeah. So time, and the encounter also was with Father Time. I honor the person that brought this revelation to me. They brought the Father Time revelation to me. I asked them what they see when they see Father Time, and they didn't see an old decrepit man. They saw a man that had a gray beard but not a white beard. Okay, so he had wisdom and maturity and so on, but he didn't have death happening inside him. You know.
Right. So outside of the old form of time and into what time truly is, if we have to function in it.
Yeah, because I see that, for example, time enables us to grow, right?
Mhm.
So all the growth that we do spiritually is because we're functioning with respect to time. Growth won't happen if there isn't time involved. The only reason we see time as an enemy or encounter time as an enemy is because sin and death have entered into the equation, and the clock's running out,
Mhm.
and so on. When that's removed, then time is, everything about time is a good thing.
Right. So we just need to understand to come out of the old and enter into the new. And
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and there is a law of time and space, which is what Thomas has been talking about here, and Jane was talking about the law of time and space as well. and it's one of the 12 laws of Zion. So we learn to function inside a law. So you're a lawbreaker when you're outside the law, right? But you function inside the law, then you are functioning in the law. You're not an outlaw, you're an in-law. I know it's a bad pun, but in the time sense, or being inside the law, functioning inside the law of time and space. So we learn to function with respect to the law of time and space, and part of that is overcoming the sin and death part of the time that we were born into.
Mm. So then, once we overcome that, do we get translated into a new time sequence? I'm sorry, my mind just goes into a new time sequence. So if we're living under the old thing, that all we know is death and this and that, then we rise above that and we see that, like you said, time is actually works for us, because we can jump in other time in different dimensions, in different realms. I'm just saying.
As I'm arcing with you, as you said that, Doreen, that was good, really good. And what I'm seeing is a whole bunch of timelines, and a large number of them actually just come to an end. They're like negative timelines. They just come to an end. They stop at that point when you overcome with respect to time. Remember, the process is see. So we're seeing the law of time and space and how it functions and so on. Receive it, enter into it, overcome. And that overcoming is the old negative time. And then the inherit and possess time. And then I am. I suppose you come to the place where I am time, you know. And you are functioning as a king with respect to time, because you overcome as a king. So you're sitting on a throne with respect to time, and you've got a crown, and you're on the throne, and you've got a scepter in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And what we saw, well, anyway, I'll let you have the encounter on your own.
I'm sorry, but when you said all that, I saw the name on that's on our throne is time. So everything, we have a crown, we have a scepter, and we sit on a throne that has a name on it called time.
Yep. And the other thing about there being Father Time, which is a created being, it's not just a cartoon character or something for New Year's. It's actually a created being, created by God, which also would mean that we can function as a father with respect to time as well.
Ooh, feel resonance on that, excitement on that. Wow. You could almost say a lot of the work we've done on the timelines, though, we have been fathering over time.
Yes, we have. We just didn't have the terminology to describe what we were doing, but now we do.
Yeah, because I was thinking, oh, perhaps we should do more, but I think we've actually done a lot. We did something a few weeks back on compressing time, and we can expand it as well.
Yep.
So it goes in both ways.
Yep.
And I think what you said, Doreen, around like how we'll move in time, that I've heard this person who's Christian claiming a testimony, which I really do resonate with, how he understands that there are all these parallel universes, and every choice we make creates like a new, I'm not sure if it says every choice, but choices we make create these parallel universes. And I think there's an ideal one. So you can ask like help from yourself in this parallel universe to assist you in this one. And he reckons he sees two suns. He's got a picture. He actually took a picture, and he said when you operate at like these higher frequencies, you see Yeah, you see two suns, I think, because it's parallel.
Yeah,
I don't-
because one is real and one's an illusion. So which one are we gonna live from? I'm sorry. That's the way how I see it. The parallel. So one is reality and one is the ultimate reality. So that's why he can see two suns, right? But what we is for us to live from the one that is the real truth and not a mirage. That's the plainest way I could put it. You know, because if we see in the spirit, then we rise above the place where we exist from. So he sees the two places. He sees the place where we exist from that is counterfeit and would prefer to exist from the realm that is truth. Right, because remember the whole world's been deceived. So if we're just existing here and we're not good above where we are to be able to see greater, then we can only see our surroundings. But there is which is a mirage when we understand who we are. So and we understand where we are, and so when we rise above this, then we can attain to another world that looks similar to what we're used to, but it's a whole new dimension of where we should be used to, if that makes any sense. Sorry.
I think that's awesome. Yeah, it makes complete sense. It's a great description. And I've just got some revelation here. Oh, what was it? Oh, it's gone. It's gone. Oh, it's just something. No, it's gone. It's something quite profound that I've been doing, and I didn't realize. Oh no! I know what it was. You know, when we saw the Lamb as the light, that's what I suddenly saw in perfection. That the Lamb is like this. It's like the glowing ball of white in the sky is Yeshua, and it looks like it's the sun, but it's Yeshua. There's the Lamb as the light, and that's probably the real second sun we need to see. It's not just some ball of gas. It's Yeshua as the light, the Lamb as the light, and I can see it now. And I think that's why in perfection, you've got that glorious reminder constantly there that God is with you. You know, there's never a moment where you won't know that.
Jane, when you were talking about alternate universe and your alternate self in the highest blueprint universe, assisting us, what I saw was that universe is a line, a timeline, right? And we're on a timeline. And when you do that, what happens is our timeline gets bent until it actually comes and joins the path of that highest blueprint universe. Alternate universe is what I saw when you talked about that.
Yes, I think what we did today, we bent the timelines to create a parallel, a possible parallel universe that could happen for good.
Yep.
Wow.
Are we? I just know some folks are having to leave, and that's fine. I just wanted to make sure before everybody's gone to mention that if I remember correctly, Jane, we're talking about taking next Monday off. It's Memorial Day here in the US. That was our plan, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it'll be 2 weeks. We'll see you all again. Just want to make sure that announcement got out there before everybody left. If somebody does need to leave while we're still kind of winding down here, please feel free to do so. I should ask, are we complete at this point, or is there more?
I feel complete.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I do.
I do too.
Me too. Okay, I'm going to turn the recording off at this point. Those who are listening on Facebook Live, thank you for joining us. Those that are listening to the recording later on, thank you for joining us. You can step into the encounter, even though in one sense it's a later time, but in another sense it's exactly the same time as us when we had the initial dialogue and encounter. You're just joining us at the same time that we're doing it, talking about functioning in time and space. So I'm stopping the recording here.